I wanted the food and drug men, food and drug admin. That's funny. Because the sniper at Bryn Mawr, the sniper here in Minneapolis, the dude that went in and shot up the business, Bryn Mawr Printing, I think it was. I wanted to know if he was on any drugs, right? Because when I started saying that the pharmaceutical companies was testing me, I used Michael Ford. And then my connection to friends, family, and the weed that was around me, right? To be how they were giving me samples and testing me and then monitoring how I reacted, right? And they didn't really care because in theory, they were profiting off my pain. So I thought that the food and drug admin was giving me different variations of drugs and different things. And I thought that the way people saw it, because Eric Cepeda, my friend, he said, Sharon, depending upon what's on your mind, your high is going to be affected. So like shrooms, acid, certain things that gave you, what do they call it, a psychedelic effect, body high. These types of drugs were different. So growing up and going through DARE with the basic education that they gave me, I thought that I just felt like I didn't like other drugs, right? And I smoked weed. And I thought it was like Newports. I didn't think it was really that bad other than it can be harmful, right? You could get lung cancer to me and don't even smoke nor be by anybody. So if you going to get lung cancer, I just thought you was going to get it because it's God's will, right? You can't question, right? I always use that theory of the twins. One twin gets sick, one twin don't. They both live the same lifestyle. One dies from cancer, one don't. And then you start to question what made God, right, call that one home, but you're not supposed to question God. So at that point in my life, you don't get to question why God makes the decisions that he do, but you can question man. Why does man do the shit that they do? Well, for pharmaceutical companies putting out new drugs, if you heard me earlier, and I was talking about the chief surgeon and them being the rehab and the Naxalone Narcan, explosion. If it wasn't for the pharmaceutical companies reaching out to the Surgeon General, he couldn't leak fentanyl, brand or, generic. And then he couldn't give you rehab for it. He couldn't then give you a shot, which is all funded by the Hennepin County taxpayer dollars, right? So I just looked at how they were making money and I said, again, they didn't want to take tax dollars for weed, but they don't mind taking my tax dollars for the wraps I use to smoke the weed. They don't mind taking my tax dollars for the, pipes and shit people was using to smoke weed. But they didn't want the tax dollars for the actual marijuana, which I said also was a lie because under theory of the chief surgeon general and hemp, being, for me back then when I looked marijuana and all that was under it, even cannabis, where I thought, they took the shot away because they said a pill was more cost effective, right? So then if we take the pill away and we just leave it in a liquid format, you could actually spray it on shit. Now you got people smoking their pharmaceutical drugs, and the food and drug admin wouldn't have been in agreement with it. Me, subject A, wouldn't have been in agreement with it. They'd have been giving me drugs that I didn't want. I thought causing me addictions that I didn't want, and I thought I could sue the motherfuckers because, again, Amy Jane Getz, Atlee Riley, marijuana, and important study and shit. We need to get, tests for you that might be smoking weed so we can pull you over because we smell it. You got to get up on a person to see if they're drunk driving, but if their car's swerving and shit, if they're running into poles and shit, going to sleep at the wheel, so when the cop gets there, they smell alcohol, we can give them a test. If they refuse the test, we can just assume that they're drunk, right, by the scene of the crime. But we didn't have too many people who smoked weed, that was being pulled over for, bad driving, where they could say that your driving was erratic or caused harm to the community around you. So then, therefore, I didn't understand how they were going to be creating a marijuana test, because it's going to test to be in my system. DARE told me years ago it's going to be in there for at least 30 days. If you're a chronic user, chronic, right? Chronic. If you're a chronic user, it's going to be in there longer. It's going to take a longer time to get out your system. I thought Tim Walz creating a levels limit, and then, through Axis, giving me Adderall, Abilify. I thought they gave me incontinence medicine to smoke. I thought that they put it in vapes. I thought that they were giving me, anxiety medication. It was causing me to have symptoms, which, again, psychedelic drugs for Sharon, now made her think Bobby was trying to rape her. Keith Ellison was trying to kill her. Why? Because under Barack Obama, his platform, his plight to be king, God, he now wants to be the benefit pharmacy manager. He wants people to Obamacare, so now he's putting out the drugs that you're using. He's now giving you the rehab that you'll need. He's now your medical dental providers, right? Like he did me. So I thought I was under that niggerama plan. That's what I call it, niggerama. Why? Because of Obama. And I thought he made me his bitch, right? Because I smoked weed. And he wanted me to stop smoking weed. Under the 12 Nations of Islam, studying life his way. Him and Keith Louis Farrakhan. Gods to the black women. Everybody wants their children to grow up and be these black men, right? My son should be Barack. My son should be Bobby. My son should be Keith. My son should be Louis Farrakhan. I strived for that to happen, but I really didn't. People like Amy Klobuchar bow down to him. People like Peggy Flanagan look up to him, right? These are, white women, my mom said, that love them black men and would fuck a black bitch up like me. Why? Well, because they fucking well, Keith. They got big dicks, right? Big dicks at the table, right? That's what they told me, big dicks at the table. So I started thinking of Dr. Brissett, measuring my son's dick. For football, Mr. Howard. Cooper, right? Cooper High School, Michael Favors. Keep it real.